Most viewers focused on the obvious conflict, but the real story wasn't happening in the open. It was happening in the shadows, because while Rip was focused on defeating the enemy, he could see someone else was quietly positioning themselves for power, someone waiting for the perfect moment, and that moment finally arrives near the end of the episode. But before we get there, we need to talk about Rip himself, because episode 5 isn't really about revenge. It's about consequences. For years, Rip has been the ultimate enforcer. The man who solves problems nobody else can solve. The man willing to do what others won't. And that's exactly why audiences love him. He's loyal. He's fearless. He's relentless. But those qualities come with a cost. The writers have spent the entire season asking one question. What happens when a man built for war finally reaches the end of the battlefield? What happens when the fighting stops? Who is he then? And episode 5 suggests a frightening answer. Maybe the war never stops. Maybe it simply changes shape. Because every victory Rip achieves creates a new enemy. Every battle won leaves another wound behind. Every act of revenge plants the seeds of future revenge. It's a cycle. And by the end of the episode, that cycle comes crashing back toward him. But here's where things get really interesting. The betrayal isn't random. In fact, it may have been hiding in plain sight all season. Let's look at the clues. Throughout the episode, several characters make comments about loyalty, trust, family, legacy. At first, these moments seem like normal dialogue. But viewed in hindsight, they're practically screaming the truth. The writers are telling us that loyalty isn't the solution. It's the problem. Because loyalty creates blind spots. And Rip has one enormous blind spot. He believes he knows who his enemies are. He believes the danger is coming from outside. But what if the danger is already inside the gates? What if the person who threatens everything isn't standing across the battlefield, but standing right beside him? That's where the ending becomes so powerful. Because the betrayal doesn't just hurt strategically, it hurts emotionally. And emotional damage always cuts deeper than physical damage. When Rip learns the truth, his expression says everything. This isn't anger. Not at first. It's disbelief. The kind of disbelief that comes from realizing you've trusted the wrong person. The kind of disbelief that makes you replay every conversation in your head. Every warning. Every strange moment. Every clue you ignored. And suddenly all those pieces begin fitting together. The betrayal wasn't unexpected. Rip simply didn't want to see it. And honestly, neither did we. Which is exactly why the twist works. The best betrayals don't come out of nowhere. They come from the places we stopped looking. And that's precisely what happens here. But here's the part almost nobody is talking about. The betrayal itself isn't the biggest reveal. The bigger reveal is what comes after. Because the person responsible isn't acting alone. Someone else is pulling strings. Someone smarter. Someone more patient. Someone willing to let Rip eliminate obstacles before stepping into the spotlight. Think about how dangerous that is. Rip spent the entire season fighting one enemy. Meanwhile, another enemy was studying him, learning from him, waiting for him. Imagine spending months preparing for a fistfight, only to discover you're actually walking into a sniper's trap. That's the feeling this ending creates. And that's why the final scenes feel so unsettling. The threat isn't gone. It's evolving. The battlefield is changing. And Rip may be completely unprepared for what's coming next. Now let's talk about Beth. Because Beth's presence hangs over every major decision Rip makes. Whether she's physically on screen or not, she's always part of the equation. And that makes the ending even more dangerous. Because Rip's greatest strength has always been his love for Beth. But his greatest weakness? It's also Beth. Any enemy who understands that becomes incredibly dangerous. And episode 5 strongly suggests that someone finally understands exactly how to exploit that weakness. The question isn't whether Rip will fight. Of course he'll fight. The question is how far he'll go. Because every season pushes him closer to the edge. Every betrayal pushes him further into darkness. Every loss removes another piece of restraint. And by the end of episode 5, you can feel that transformation beginning again. The look in his eyes tells the entire story. This isn't the Rip who started the season. This is someone harder, colder, more dangerous. The betrayal may have won the battle, but it also awakened something. Something the enemy might not be prepared for. And that creates one of the most fascinating questions moving forward. Did the traitor actually defeat Rip? Or did they create a monster? Because history suggests that's usually a terrible idea. Just ask anyone who's ever underestimated Rip Wheeler. Actually, on second thought, you can't. Most of them aren't around anymore. And that's where episode 5 leaves us. Suspended between victory and disaster. Between revenge and consequence. Between trust and betrayal. Rip thought the war was ending. Instead, he may have accidentally started a much bigger one. And if the clues hidden throughout this episode are accurate, the next enemy won't simply challenge his strength. They'll challenge his identity, his loyalty, his future, and possibly even his relationship with Beth. But there's one final clue hidden in the ending that changes everything. A clue that suggests the writers have been building toward this moment from the very beginning. And once you see it, you realize episode 5 wasn't the climax. It was the setup. The real storm is still coming.